Welcome back to our Scala class, and today we will talk about CSV files or comma separated values files, probably files you have already experienced before, worked with before, probably in Excel or maybe some other program, maybe in a text editor, and of course they're quite common. It's extremely common data interchange format between moving data from between different systems, between different technologies. There's only slight problem is that there's no strict standard. Even if you go to Wikipedia and you look at information, well, it's not strictly defined. In fact, often you won't see a CSV file, might not be comma separated value file. It might be a semicolon or maybe a tab separated value file, which is actually more like TSV file, right? Tab separated values. And also, so there's no strict standard, but it's very commonly used. In fact, so because it's basically a text file with some certain structure, so there's some questions of how to escape characters. So there's nothing is really written down in stone. So well, often you have to use your own wits to process some non-standard cases. We'll look. Today we will look at relatively simple CSV file, and we'll read some veggie prices from UK, and we'll see how we can what we can do with this type of file. Okay, but let's get started. We'll be using of course our project as before. So this is going to be day 20, new Scala class. Let's start first with reading. Day 20, reading CSV from web, right? So we want to read from web, and so we'll go slowly by actually downloading the files, things we already have done before. So of course it's not going to be any different than the reading a regular text file, right? Nothing special, but I want to cover one extra case is how to create a directory in our project by program, not by hand. Okay, so let's find out what's going to be our target. Where are we going to get this CSV file? So well, to save some time, I've been using this UK British government site, Open Data. Here is a machine learnable, readable format, right? Weekly price time series from 2015 to 2022. Actually, I believe it's not quite correct. It's actually 2017, right? So, of course, there are many other data sources. For example, European data portal, right? Data portal, right? And we can see. I think, yeah, this is a good one. Of course, if you are, there's also American one, right? Lots of data sets, right? And also data Latvia open, right? It's open data. I believe it's this one here, right? Yes. Okay, which is also quite good. We'll be using this also in our learning. Okay, so there's also American one too. USA. Open data portal, right? Let's see. Of course, not to mention Kaggle and places like that. Yeah, data.gov. Okay, so there's a treasure trove of data there. Okay, so but we'll be using this UK one, right? So we have a link. Of course we could do this by hand, right? You have a single file, you could download it, right click. But okay, so I'll click copy the address, right? And I want to download. Okay, there's only slight snag, right? So this is my URL, right? Okay, it's quite long. Okay, no problem. We don't have a problem with that, right? Of course, it's a value, right? But I want to create first. I need a folder to save the data, right? Well, of course, I could save it underneath or resource. I want to create a CSV. Like I have text. Do I have anything here? No, I have nothing, I guess. But I want to save a CSV folder. How to do that? Well, yeah. So I want to have destination folder, right? Right, will be resources, right? CSV. Let's see how it works. Okay, so we could use some Scala specific methods, but actually here it's the easiest, since we don't really want to think about this too much. This is just a little side quest on our journey. We want to basically just create and get it over with. So I have a Java. This should work since Java 8 plus, meaning we're using Java 11 or maybe Java 17, right? So basically, simple method. We'll just have to import files and pass, and we'll be done, right? So this creates new directory and parent directory, and including parent directories, which is really neat, right? So you don't have to, and there's no exception, right? If there's existing directory, so this means second time you run it, there's not going to be any error. So again, oftentimes you want this behavior because you want things not to break. If it's already working, why fix it, right? So this is what we are going to use, right? And let's see. I'll run it once, right? And I'm not going to read the directory. So and let's see here, right? And I'll see this example, right? So we don't need the semicolon since we are not in Java. We're using, okay, right? So files, this is Java, right? Okay, and how about pass? Also Java. Okay, you see how nicely easy it is to use this. Okay, and my pass. Well, I have my pass here. Thank you. Right, thank you very much. So I don't need to do this. I can just do it in this destination folder. Okay, let's see what happens. It should appear, right? Of course, the question is, do we need an extra slash here? We'll see. It should work, right? I'll see if it works. And again, and let's test it. Will there be an error? It's compiling. Zero errors, that's good. And do we have it here? Well, let's refresh. F5. And of course, I don't see it. But there's no error, which is good. But I don't see it here. Or maybe I did. Resources CSV. Maybe I made mistakes. Maybe it made it here, right? You don't ever know. You want to check, right? Source. Right. You see? Well, that's what happens. I didn't want, right? Of course, I need to have source resource, right? So again, notice, but of course, this is a good demonstration how this particular method works, right? It doesn't care. There's not. It created a parent directory and a child directory. It created two directories at once with no error message, right? So of course, I'm going to delete this, right? I don't need this, right? Yes, delete. Okay, but I need this. So this is correct one, right? Source, because we started source, of course, right? At source, of course, right? So it should be when we go here. Let's run it again. So of course, naming. Yes, there we go. Okay, so we're good. Again, it won't do it again, right? It won't only do that. We'll do it only once, right? So no error if it exists. Okay, so that's good. And we want a destination. So what's our destination? Of course, will be excuse me, will be this source resources. Well, it would be nice to get the file name automatically, right? What we could do, right? We could do the split by this and get the last one, right? That's possible, right? So let's try to do that, right? So let's see if this works. This is not, of course, necessary, but split, right? Or maybe we'll split it, right? So while or we'll have name, while file name will be what? URL split by, of course, this, right? And we want last, right? Tail, but last. Should last, right? Okay. And print string. So then we can basically, so destination will be, of course, destination fold. Well, we can do this easier. I prefer this. So I like this way, right? Or you can do, well, we need to add the extra forward slash. And there are libraries, there are tools to do this automatically, but we'll do it by hand. So I'll do this like this. So destination folder, right? Then we do this, right? Because that's we need to include it, and then we need to include the file name, right? And we should be good, right? So let's see. We'll save. We'll do print line. We'll save in destination. Okay. Let's see if this works. There should be no errors. Yes, looks pretty good. Okay. Of course, so this usually works pretty nicely, right? We split and get the last end, right? From this huge URL. But well, there's special libraries for parsing, of course, URLs, but this is just good enough, right? There's no need to complicate things. And again, until you need to, right? So, so now we're ready to save. Well, now, well, we can use this save, right? Of course, we could have done this about, I mean, I could have made the CSV, right, already. The next time I don't need to do this, of course, but, well, let's try it, right? So I will get text, right, and I will save it. That's it, right? You have this URL, destination, and we are good. No, I don't need to include these, right? So we're good, right? Get text from web and save it, right? And I can print maybe first 500, and we'll see what it looks like, right? We'll look at also, we'll look in also in by hand. So we should be already almost done. Let's see. So getting the data is the hard part. Of course, again, if you had a big, like in your exercise, you had a big list of files, URLs to get, you need to do some little bit more work. So let's see what happens. I expect it should work. We'll save. Oh yes, excellent. All right, we have the April prices from last week. Looks good. Looking good. Right, so fruit. So this is actually, see what it looks like. Again, if you've never seen CSV, it's basically you have generally a header which includes the column names or category names, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you have 6 data points. For each row has a 6 items, right? So 6 entries, right? Representing, of course, category. Is it fruit or vegetable, right? Or I assume this is fruit and veggie. So it could be possibly both, right? Apples, well, yes, apple. And you have variety, what kind of apple it is, the date, and this is what the price per kilo, right? In the UK, again, this is what we are looking at here, apparently across all the markets. So this is actually quite interesting to see what inflation is happening. So some interesting data actually. We'll see what we can manage. But yes, so let's see, did we save? Did our utility, remember our utility, let's go to our implementation, right? Well, it's easy, remember, because we already implemented the other methods, right? We have the method for getting text already here, right? Which is sourced from URL, right? Again, on making a string, on the saving, of course, we already save text, right? We also have it here somewhere, right? So we have all these, so we're building upon already or something we already done before. So nothing too hard, right? So, okay, we have our data. Now, assume we have a huge folder of files, right? We want to read this, right? Well, first of all, let's open it up, right? Well, there is actually some plugins which make more easier to work with CSV, including IntelliJ, right? You can see here, I think in Ultimate version, there's some extra support. But again, for our purposes, this is fine. It's just a text file, right? How many rows? Let's see. We can, of course, 2000, I think, no, typos, right? So we can go down. There's about 9,000 entries, right? So vegetables, there's also flowers even, right? And pot plants, right? So quite lots of information, right? But you can see this actually is it's not from 2015, it's from 2017. It's 5 years running. It's a 5-year window, right? Looks like, right? So there's a cutoff. But okay, that should give us enough to work with. So again, this is so we have a comma. There's one problem. Well, there's a problem is what happens if there is another comma in between, right? There's no machine. If you want to read this, right? How do you distinguish a comma which is part of some entry and a comma which is used to separate, right? So that means you have usually two choices. You have to escape it somehow, right? Or use different divider, right? That's why you have a semicolon or something else. You come up with these new ideas, right? But luckily for us here, this is a simple case. It's already nicely it will work. We can use some really simple methods to get this data already without any too many headaches. Let's hope so. It should be relatively straightforward. Let's proceed. Okay, so we have a data. Well, we want to read it, right? So how would we read it? How would we hold it, right? Well, for a while we are working with it, right? So from the web, and let's make a new file, of course, right? So we know where it is, right? We can also copy this a file, right? We could also maybe see we have a utility to get list these files. Maybe that would be nice, right? I'll go to main, right? On day 20, right? We have it here, right? Let's make a new one. Object day 20 reading CSV from file, right? Add extends. Right, so we can, for now I will leave. If you have time, I think we have time. Yeah, we're doing pretty good, right? I'll add also option to read the file directory. And for now, of course, I'll use the source. So while source equals, of course, it will be this source file, right? Or we can do source file if you want, right? It doesn't matter, right? So source, I'll have it from here, right? And I can do copy pass, right? Copy pass, just from content root, right? This is what I want, right? On, see what I did, right? I copied it here, right? Copy path reference, right? Yeah, path from content root or repository root, right? That's what I wanted. Okay, so I have it, right? Do list files, CSV files and folder. That might be something to do it later, maybe at some point, right? Something for extra to explore. But right, so we want to read it. Well, how to read it? Well, we can do it by lines. Probably we want 2 lines, right? Right. So this is a easy. Well, this is like actually this is where Scala comes into play, right? Really easy to do. And so lines, right? Easy stuff, right? Utility read lines, and of course utility read lines, right? We have somewhere here. Get lines from file, right? And source. Okay, right. And then again, let's take a look at this again. So what could we do here? Well, we have a comma. So we want to actually do something, split the line, right? And split by what? Well, what else? What can we split with? You're going to use a comma because that's what it's going to use as a separator, right? So we're going to use a comma to split, right? So we'll read it, right? And so I could do split lines, right? Do something like this, split lines, right? And how should I do it? Well, I'm going to have lines. Let's see, right? Right, lines. So I have a lot of lines, right? Well, so what can I do with lines? What kind of, I could use a for loop, of course, right? But I have something called map, right? I can do map, right? And so I can map each line to its split version. So this is the line in question. I don't need to have an extra split, right? And what I'm going to split by comma, right? That's our regex, right? Remember our friend regex, right? Now nothing, you don't need anything fancy. Well, the thing is where this could be handy, right? Why regex? Well, what happens? This is if we had some extra white space here. This is nicely packed, right? But sometimes you might need to add some extra fancier. If you have something like this, you can ignore these. You can have your regex ignore it. But we'll see this later. We'll try it later. I'm not going to save it. So I'm going to split. So split by. So each line is split by comma, right? Right. So split lines. What this is a array of string, right? And this is going to be array of strings, right? Nice, right? So 2-dimensional, right? Okay, let's see. So we're gonna print it, right? So lines, let's print some lines, maybe. Print line slice, maybe 5, right? Or take 5. Let's say take 5, right? Take 5, right? And we'll do, make string, or basically it's 5 lines, so make string, or maybe new line, right? Of course, right? Something like this. Or it easy, which is basically, of course, would be easier to do this, right? Same thing, but of course, lines take 5, right, for each print line, right? Let's see which is easy, which is for each print line. Well, this is slightly shorter, right? Slightly shorter, slightly same as above, same as above, right? So take 5 for each print line, right? So same thing, right? Because print line includes a line separator, right? So let's run it, and then we'll see what happened to the split. Oh, well, I didn't mean to save it again. Okay, sorry about that, but of course that's no problem. Sorry, well, UK government can handle that, right? Extra hit, right? It's meant to be open data, right? So yes, but now I'm reading it. So yeah, it looks good, right? Let's see. This is exactly the same. Just to check if my mind is sharp enough this morning. Yeah, it looks the same, right? Exactly the same. Okay. So now let's see what happens with our split, right? And so how will we print this? So let's again split lines. I'll take 5, right? And well, now I'll do for each, right? For each. But now how do I print it, right? Well, if I print it, it'll be an array. This won't be good, right? This won't look good, right? This won't look good. This will not look good, right? Yeah, it's just Java language thing, so not too useful, right? So I'm gonna close it, right? And Control D, right? Control forward slash, right? So what do we here? So this is an array here, right? So array or line, right? Take 5, and I am going to say line items. I'll say it might be line items, right? So for each line item, right? Items. It's also an array. This is an array of strings. You see, this is array of strings. Again, Scala static, this typing, it helps us tremendously when navigating these different data types, these structures. So we can check. Okay, oh, it's an array of string. Okay, so what can we do with this? Well, we can just print it. Of course, we can do something simple. Again, print line and line or item, right? Line items, right? And make string. And I'll do this, right? So show you the idea, right? Just show you the idea. I'm gonna basically instead of comma, I put a semicolon back, right? So you can see this is it should print with the semicolon now. Let's check. Yes, you see, and I have a semicolon, right? Of course, I could, do a copy and replace. I mean, use the replace method, of course, right? So this will look good. This looks okay. So now we have a semicolon instead, right? Okay, of course, this is print. We are not saving it. Of course, we are not saving it. We are just printing it. Okay, right. But so we have an array, right? Which is okay. Right, that's two-dimensional data. You can do things already with this type of data, but it would be better to have more structured data. So, well, let me make some. Let's make a case class. Again, case class can be useful for this type of task, right? So I'll make a veggie, right? So I'll make a case class. Right, and I could make it separate. I guess I should make a separate class. I could of course add it here, but I'll make veggie here, right? So where is our veggie, right? I'll make a new, right? We have pizza, we have song, let's make a veggie, right? Of course, it should be more like it's not really strictly great, not completely precise, because there might be also a flower, maybe, possibly, right? Possibly, but so new Scala class, it will be not a object, but case class, right? I'm gonna call it veggie, right? Add to git. So that's already. So questions, what should it be? Well, let's come up with some ideas. So what do we have here? We have category, item, variety, date, price, string. Okay, so that's not bad at all. I notice we have kilos, but possibly that's all. What we have? Well, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but we have what could we? Well, date could possibly be some specific format for date, but we'll use string. So we'll use strings, but okay, in order to show you the point, I would like to have this would be maybe should be double, right? Not integer, but double, right? So let's look at these date types. So I'm going to copy this, right? I'm gonna increase it here, right? That's a good start, but of course I need to provide a category nothing, right? Nothing, nothing, nothing. So string, right? Yes, string, string, string. Why not? Variety, sure. On date, string for now, right? Well, on this will be double, right? To have something at least, and unit will be string. So we gain some extra ideas. We have some extra data types here, right? So for now, this should be going to be. That's how we're going to store the class, this data, right? Item string, variety string, right? And so, how do we actually? Well, how do we pass this, right? Well, it should be actually relatively easy, right? So we have this veggie class, right? But you think you probably already can figure out what we're gonna do. Well, so we basically go to this reading CSV file, and we basically probably gonna map, right? But we need to figure out how we're gonna map. So we're gonna map each. Well, when here we have split lines, right? We want this each array, right? This individual array here to map to this veggie class, right? So let's create a function for this, right? And we can then test it, right? See what actually happens, right? Right. And so what would be the structure? Well, let's make a function define array to veggie, right? So in comes array individual. This represents an individual row, right? Array string, right? And out comes what? Veggie, right? Out comes this veggie class, right? Okay, so what do we want to do? So of course we would want to in real life scenarios we would probably want a library. We would want a library. We would want a library to handle, more bad cases, right? Because of course, so possibly we would want to check if we have some bad data, right? So here we have a relatively easy case. So, well, okay, so veggie, remember our case class, right? Remember this is remember our in case classes, right? We don't have to, these are values, these are all values, right? We are not gonna change them, right? These are all values. Remember, these are all values. Remember case class. In case class, this is same as writing in regular class. To be case class category string is same as writing val category string in a regular class, right? So it saves you some little writing, right? So these are fixed values, right? So value fields. Okay, right. So let's read it. Right? I mean, let's create it. So we have so we need it's right now we are returning a unit, right? We need to return a veggie, so let's return a veggie. So we could do basically, you know, right? This would work, right? Right, and 0.0, right, and right, this is okay, we're done. Yes, we can go home, right? No, so fix me, right? This is fix me, fix me, right? And of course you should add, if you add a dummy stub, right? So you'll have nothing. And what we really want is probably this. So we have an array, right? And we know it's 6 values. We could do basically well, there's not really much way around it. Since we have to do some conversion, so we basically going to do array 0, right? Array 1, right? Array 2, right? Array 3, and that's 4 of them. So the question now, so array 5, is this going to work? No. So what do we need to do? Array 5, right? So what do we need to fix? So this is a problem, right? So again, Scala tells us, oh, here's a problem. So how to fix it? We want a double, and it is a string. Well, let's make it a double. Easy, right? To double. And we are done, right? So fix me, right? And we're done. So it's a, again, of course, since this is only a one-liner, right? Things, first of all, you probably will need to add some extra ifs, maybe check something. If it's actually a really, you will need to check if it's a length is, right? You maybe have a blank, like an extra case, right? There's plenty of stuff to improve here. So it is a good argument to keep this. So this function makes sense, right? So now we have a function. So how would we do this, right? Let's use last, right? Let's use our last item, and let's see how it works, right? So last item, which was, if you remember correctly, here, right? Let's see, we're gonna do a last line like this one here, right? Pot plants, right? Let's see, 30 centimeters. Okay, unit, by the way, you see, they're different units. That's also important. So I'm gonna test it on the last one. So we have split lines. Last, so I'll do last item will be, of course, split lines on array to veggie, split lines, right? And that's not good, you see, array of strings. So what we need, of course, we'll take a last one, right? So last, right? And that should do it, yeah. And let's print it, right? So look at this. This is a veggie. Yeah, it is a veggie. Okay, excellent. And yes, you see, we have a nicely the cyclamen, tericimeter. This is actually, we have the price. We have everything what we need, right? So excellent. So if we can do one, can we do more? We want everything, right? Well, let's do that, right? So let's create. Let's get all of the veggies, right? So what do we need? We of course going to use our friend map again, right? So we only taken this part here, right? We did split, right? So what we did is with lines. We said each line, right? We wanted for each line. We want to split each line, right, and map it to this new array of arrays, right? Again, alternative, right? We'll test to do show yield syntax, right? Same thing, right? So you can use map or yield, right? Same thing would work, but let's actually finish our work here. So we want to basically lots of veggies, right? Will be what? Split lines. And now the question is, what do we want to split? Do we want everything? We could, right? But we probably there's a slight problem. There's a slight problem. Notice here again. So this is already, we have to think about it. We need to skip the header, right? Because price is not it's not a double, right? You'll have an error. I can show you. I'll show you the error, and then you can think for yourself how to fix it. So I could do this map, right? Map, right? Line, right? And for each line, well, I can do array to veggie. So what I could do is basically array to veggie. Right? This should work, right? Yeah. Array to veggie, right? We pass each line, right? So array to veggie. In fact, you probably can even skip this, right? Because we are giving a question. So we could, right? Again, show you this again. So this is a full one line. This is a full syntax, right? Remember, this is full syntax, right? But which is fine. Control D. We can make it even simpler with this, right? Remember again, yeah. Or Control D, right? So it should work. Even this is super simple since I'm giving it, right? Yeah, it should work, right? Except, right? Except, right? This so same as above 2 lines, right? So mapping, we're saying okay, for each of this entry, right? Each array of strings, we're gonna give this each entry to this function, right? And map it so this will have a array of veggies. Excellent. So this looks good, okay? And we could print, print line, maybe, for each veggies take 5, right? And for each print line, right? Okay. So so far so good, but there's a problem, right? I'll show you the problem. I'm almost sure there's going to be a problem. The problem is this part here. Let's see. You see, nice exception. Exactly what we wanted. Well, we don't want it, but you see number, format, exception. Again, this is normal part of work. You'll have exceptions, right? So how to handle it? In fact, you are told what it is. It's price. That's the problem. So the problem is here. Price. Okay, so how to fix it? Well, again, we're gonna basically skip this line. So let's see, how could we skip it? We can use drop one syntax, right? But the simplest is to use tail. Remember a tail, right? So I'll add it here too, so you can see it, right? So we use tail. Everything but the first line to skip header, right? So this should work. Let's see again the famous last words, but it should work. Okay, fantastic. So we have our data. Now we'll want to actually get some maybe sorted, right? So let's see, we can do a lot of things now with actually our data. We have time, we're running out of time, so we'll want to have some extra, maybe some extra challenges. But let's see, let's get the highest price, maybe perhaps, right? So we can start. Well, we can start sorting, right? We can do highly priced, right? So we could get prices, for example, right? For example, we can do things like this. We can get the prices. For example, we could prices, right? So an array, so veggies, and map, right? Price, right? So very easy, right? So we say veggies, okay, right? We know what it is, right? Where's my veggie, right? We're gonna take the price. Okay, no problem. Yeah, and we have a price array of doubles. Nice, of course. So we separated these. So let's see. And what's the max price? Print line. Max price equals price is max, right? Max, right? Something like this. So let's see what the maximum price is. Why not? Something costs 17 euros. No, sorry, pounds, quid, 17 quid and 6 pence, right? No, 60 pence. Okay, So, let's see. Let's filter. See what in the world is this? This expensive items, expensive max price items. Right? We can do filter, of course. Right? Veggies filter, and well, I'll just do price equals price is max. Right? Price is max. Right? Okay. On of course equal, right, filter. So let's see who are those what are those prices, right? So max price items, take again, I'll take 5, right? And I'll do for each print line. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there is something. Oh, raspberries, expensive. This is last year in May. Raspberries in May. Apparently, those are expensive. Okay, so we could also, of course. So that's we found the most expensive item. There's only one day. Of course, we could say maybe price is expensive items, right? We could do something like this: max expensive items. You could do this veggies filter, and we could decide price more or less. Price is max -1, right? So maybe by buck, right? So we'll say, range, price range, right? So buck, of course, one should really be a val constant, right? Of course, because we might decide to this, maybe $2, right? Or maybe $1.50, maybe, right? Let's say $1.50, right? Something like this, right? This, of course, should be a constant. It should be given somewhere else, but I'm doing quickly, right? So on the expensive items, and of course now we can do the same thing. Expensive items, take 5. Right, and for each line, print line, right? So we should get the expensive ones. Yes, okay. The asparagus also joins our list, right? We have raspberries, we have asparagus and raspberries. So 2 popular choices, right? Looks like this year and last year. So what's interesting is, well, the question now, of course, for analysis, of course, if you do it this in a right, you could actually get, is this a new addition? Did they just start tracking raspberries and asparagus, or is this really the case that they just gotten really expensive and before they were cheap? So this is something to explore, of course. So to explore whether they were expensive before, or explore questions now arise whether these expensive items were on the list before, right? So since this is latest data, right? So prices are going up. Okay, so we can sort by price, by the way, right? So we can do sorted veggies, which of course is veggies, right? And sort by what? Well, price, of course, right? And we can do, of course, then, sorted veggies. Let's take a top, take 10, right? And again, for each line, print line. Okay, let's see. This should be same ones, same items here, right? But I think this will be the cheapest ones, right? These are cheapest ones. Yeah, these are the cheapest ones, I believe. Yes, stem, narcissus, so flowers, quite cheap in 18, right? So these are the cheap ones, right? So these are, so it was sorted ascending, right? Right, so we get the cheap flowers here. Okay, so how to do it? We can do basically reverse, right? We could do the reversed or drop. We could do sort veggies. I believe it was last, or we could do reverse. I think that's the easiest, right? Array sequence, take 10, right? That's easiest, right? I don't want to think about this again, so you have some time for you to yourself to do some work yourself, right? So top 10 most expensive items, right? We could do the filter, right? But let's see. And yes, now we have our asparagus. Okay, so the thing is, the good news for Raspberry fans is that Raspberry's been tracked since at least 2018. They've been expensive before, right? So not that bad increase. Asparagus also looks like asparagus, same story. So that's good actually, right? It looks like there's no data for 19, or maybe it is something for maybe something which is basically a new addition somewhere. Okay, so last thing before I go, before we stop this particular exercise, I want to show you that, of course, that this part here, that I want to show you that yielding would also work for those who like yield syntax, right? Right? Where is it? Show yield syntax. Yeah, I want to show you this idea. Yeah, if this is splitting, right? We did this part here. It should work same way with the yield syntax. I'll do that. So val split lines equals what? We could do this for line, right? In lines, right? Yield map split on regex, right? This should work same way, right? This should be not map, sorry, not map, yield line. I didn't say map. Okay, so, and of course I'm going to comment this out, right? Yeah, same as above, right? Same as above. I like map syntax, but again, yield I think might be a little bit easier in the beginning, right? So the same thing. So you can do all these maps can be converted, and also filters too, right? Can be converted using yield, right? So they do the same thing. The fact that the same operation underneath, right? So yeah, about. Okay, so this gives you a good start on what you can do, how you can get some CSV data, save it, load it from the web, and also we can always start doing some basic analysis, right? So maybe we'll do some little exercise with this next. All right, thank you.